Stephen A., which LA team is more likely to reach the Super Bowl, the Rams or the Chargers?
I'm going to tell you the Rams. And guess why I'm going to tell you the Rams, Bart?
Why?
By default. It's not. I think the Chargers are a better team. I mean, one can make that argument. I am a huge Justin Herbert fan. I am a huge Derwin James fan. Mama, congratulations on your money, my brother. You deserve that. Highest paid safety in the game.
Yeah.
Damn right. You deserve it, my brother. Congratulations, okay? I believe in Justin Herbert. I believe in the Chargers. I think they're gonna win the West. I think Kansas City's gonna get the wild card. I think they're gonna win the West. And actually, I think damn near every team in the division is gonna end up in the playoffs.
Yeah,
Personally.
could be.
Honestly speaking, I think all the wild card spots gonna come from the AFC West and the AFC, obviously. But the reason why I give the Rams a better shot, we just finished talking about it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got Tom Brady, Gronk's retired. Todd Bowles, I love him. I believe in him. I'm very happy he's the head coach in Tampa. But there's some question marks there. Godwin was injured last year. He's coming back. He's not 100%. We got to wait and see.
Yeah.
Okay, Mike Evans is that dude, that stud that none of us ever appreciate as much as we should. Okay, he's something special. But there's still some question marks in Tampa. You already brought up the question marks in Green Bay. Mm-hmm. Am I supposed to say the Dallas Cowboys? Am I supposed to say they're going to do something?
I got one for you.
I ain't worried about no damn Dallas Cowboys. Philadelphia Eagles, as much as I like them and I think they're going to win the NFC East, Jalen Hurts is still a question mark as to his level of elevation, okay? Drew Brees ain't in New Orleans no more, and neither is Sean Payton. All right, so I got that issue. Trey Lance is his first year starting, okay? So he's basically a rookie quarterback. I think by default, the path to prosperity is easier for the Los Angeles Rams with Aaron Donald. Now, with one caveat, assuming that elbow issue with Stafford ain't lingering and there's something that's hindering them. It's all. I mean, if his elbow's hurt, all bets are off. I'm only assuming that if he's healthy. I'm making my assumption based on health, everybody healthy. I'm talking about for everybody across the board, all the teams we're talking about. Based on the personnel that they have and the situations that they're in, I say the Rams have an easier path to the Super Bowl than the Chargers.
They still have to figure out how to beat the San Francisco 49ers because they almost lost to them 3 times last year. And if Tart gets, just catches the interception, that's three in a row. And Trey Lance is going to add another element to their offense that they haven't had since Colin Kaepernick, somebody that can be the 11, make you play 11 on 11. He looked good so far. I'm not putting him as the MVP like Chris Canty and a lot of other guys have. But I have to go with the opposite team. I have to go with the other team in Los Angeles. I have to go with the Chargers. And simply because they're complete. And because they have a quarterback that they've yet to pay, they can go out and they can get hired guns like Khalil Mack. They can go out and pay J.C. Jackson, go opposite of Asante Samuel Jr. You already spoke about Derwin James and his impact as a safety. My only issue with them is at the linebacker position, but you talk about they have Keenan Allen. They have Williams, who they paid. They paid everybody that they need to pay, and I think they're right on the cusp. And if they get out of that competitive conference in the AFC West, still iron sharpens iron or steel sharpens steel, I think they'll be ready to beat anybody. You talk about, Justin Herbert, I think he's going to announce to everybody that he's a superstar as we look for him to elevate. And last year, had a lot of questions with the head coach. The head coach was going for 4th and 1 in their own territory. They should have beat Kansas City twice last year. But the issue was they couldn't stop anybody, so their coach knew that they had to score as many points as they could because they couldn't stop anybody. Well, they went out and they addressed that issue, and because of that, I believe that they should be the favorite if we're talking about teams in L.A. Now, when you go to the Rams, you look at, I think everybody talks about the loss of Von Miller. We really don't speak about the loss of Whitworth, who I think was the anchor and was the senior leader on that squad. He's gone, and that's going to be hard to replace. Now, listen, I love what they did with Allen Robinson, but recent history or football history teaches us that nobody really goes back-to-back anymore. There's a big difference between being a hunted and being a hunter. And now they're going to get everybody's best effort every week. And history never usually seems to repeat themselves. I don't know if they're going to have that same fortune that they've had last year. Now, the package should grow because Sean McVay is going to be with Stafford, and they're going to be able to figure some things out and grow the package. But I just don't see it. They're going to get everybody's best effort.
That's one way to look at it. How about looking at it this way? Sean McVay no longer has that pressure on his back. Matthew Stafford no longer has that pressure on his back. Aaron Donald doesn't any longer have that pressure on his back. The fact that you've got it done, even though you're the hunted because you're the reigning defending Super Bowl champions, the flip side is I can't imagine a level of pressure remotely compares to what they had to endure last season.
But we saw the great one. We saw the great one, Tom Brady. Everybody came back to run it back, and they still fell short. And I think you're underestimating the Saints. The Saints are my sneaky pick. I'm telling you, I think the same issues we had with Stafford when he was in Detroit about what he didn't do. Right. I think we have about Jameis Winston, and I think he's gonna erase all those doubts.
Let me move this forward. Are the Chargers the most complete team in football?
No.
Who is?
I go with the Saints.
You on drugs.
I'm telling you.
You are on drugs.
Listen.
I mean, you should be tested right now.
Hold on.
Y'all told me I was on drugs last year when I said the Rams were going to win the Super Bowl.
Okay, we didn't say that.
Yeah,
who said that?
Yeah,
who said that? That's not true.
Your absence,
that's not true.
Stephen A., in your absence, they rolled that beautiful beam footage when I picked the Rams in March, and they called me crazy. Maybe not you.
Okay, it wasn't
me.
It wasn't me. I speak
and
for me.
You're calling me crazy now.
I speak for me. Let me tell you why I think you're crazy. Listen, first of all, I happen to like Jameis Winston a lot, and I'm rooting for him. I'm not rooting against him. And I don't think he's a scrub by any stretch of the imagination. And I'm quite sure he's not going to have another season where he throws 33 interceptions in a season.
He erased that last year.
I understand. I'm not accusing him of that. I get that. But he ain't no damn Drew Brees now. Let's be very, very clear about that.
He can do things that Drew Brees can't do or never could do.
Please, whatever. And when I see it, come talk to me, okay? Maybe throw the football 60 yards in the air. Okay, that's fine.
Clip this.
Oh, listen. Maybe, damn right, this clip-bait material, baby. Ain't nobody hiding. Ain't nobody hiding. I don't hide. I'm telling you right now, ain't no way in hell that you gonna sit up here on national television and
the Saints are the most complete
team. No, we ain't talking about the Saints because I know their defense is real. Okay, I know their defense is real, and I believe in Dennis Allen. Even though I haven't seen him as a head coach, really. The fact of the matter is that he succeeded Sean Payton. I'd say he hasn't been a head coach before, but I haven't seen him in this place. Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN Plus.